Welcome. My name is Gena Timberman, and you are listening to Timber People, a podcast about people who, like timber, are strong, build and create, who gather us together like fuel that feeds fire. People who support structures of our community that uplift and protect. Welcome to the show. I'm really happy to welcome my friend Cooper Shepard. Welcome, Cooper.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Oh my goodness. We have a lot of fun stuff to talk about for the listener. I've always felt it was really important to welcome Cooper to the show. Cooper Shepard is the son of a beloved friend of mine, Wendy Shepard. And when I began to contemplate doing a podcast, it was right after COVID, like sometime after that, a couple years ago. And I was talking to my friend Wendy about it. And, I thought, I really want a way to connect with people and to sit down. And like many of us during pandemic, we got into podcasts, and that became, a real thing and a core experience for so many people to connect with others and to hear voices and to be a part of meaningful content in a really crazy time of life. And Wendy said to me, well, my son Cooper is doing a podcast, and I wanted to visit with Cooper. And he's also a young man that's had a strong work ethic, and I needed some help with some things, and he's really reliable. And so I was like, I want to get to know this young person. And Cooper was really encouraging and supportive, and even came with me to visit the podcast studio for the first time. And so I've wanted to publicly thank Cooper for his support and encouragement during that time, because I've had such a wonderful time, and I've learned a lot from him as well. So thank you, Cooper.
Yeah, of course. It's so cool to see. It makes me feel good that I was able to inspire you to do something like this. And not only that, but that you've been able to keep the consistency of it. Obviously, it's not easy to do episodes all the time, but that you've been able to keep doing it since then, and you've grown to this, and I'm excited to see what the future has for your podcast. It's super, super cool.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You were really, you had a lot of information for me. And, to tell you, I think that so much, and thankfully we have our elders to draw from their wisdom and look to them for direction and support. In reflecting on my experience in visiting with you, and your encouragement words about doing a podcast, and you had great information about keeping it consistent and, a potential format and what to do. And, it was really great to visit with you about it. It made me think about, I've always wanted to have young people on my show, and I've been really blessed to have many of my peers and friends on the show, and Cooper's my friend, but I haven't had too many really young people, young adults on my show. And I began to think about it, and there's a moment, I think, when we all look to, and we should look to our elders for that direction, but we can't forget about the young people in our lives that can also share what they've learned. For me, particularly when it comes to technology and doing things like this. But it's important to also consider what young people can teach us in our world around us.
Yeah. And even for me, I know I'm young, but with how technologically advanced our world is, there's even things that I hear about from my little brother, and I'm like, well, I didn't know that. So it's definitely hard to keep up with everything that's going on. So it's definitely important to keep an open mind and know that you can learn something from anybody.
Absolutely. Well, for the listener, Cooper, I know you, and could you share a little bit about, where you're from and where you started your, mission to develop your podcast with your friend, and really what's inspired you on your journey?
Yeah, I'm only 21. Just a young adult. I'm trying to find my way in life still.
I'm 50, and I'm still trying to find my way sometimes.
Yeah. I started my podcast because sports is something that I've been passionate about as long as I can remember. And I think the biggest thing about obviously having a podcast, it's got to be something that you enjoy talking about, right? And I wanted a way to talk about sports and have people interact with that and either agree or disagree or whatever it may be, and just give my opinion. And I love whenever I'm able to do that and hear people's feedback, whether they think I'm stupid or they love my opinion or whatever it may be. And people like sometimes disagreeing with people, but also just relating to people. And sports is something that brings so many people together. And there's so many people, I mean, I was going to say my age, but really all ages that follow it. And it's such a big spectrum of people that enjoy sports. So I thought it was a cool thing to start a podcast about.
Absolutely. It's one of those great equalizers, one of those middle ground opportunities that we were talking before the show about, no matter what background, where you're from, we all have our teams. And if you root for the same team, it doesn't matter what age you are, that you have some common ground, especially in today's world where things can be divisive between, politics or race or religion or what have you. And, really to come together over music or food festival, we were talking movies, but the interest in sports, people are passionate about it. I tell you, there's sometimes I can't watch certain sports like really late at night because I won't fall asleep because my adrenaline's going.
Yeah, it's really, I've always thought it's really crazy to think about that. You can have 100,000 people gather in a stadium and all these people have completely something else going on. They may disagree politically, whatever, and everything else, but they all want this one team to win the game tonight.
For that moment, yeah.
And for this 3 hours, they're all cheering for this team together and happy at the same time and mad at the same time. And it just brings so many people together.
And I love how it informs memory. We've all been a part of a conversation where someone may not remember what they wore last Tuesday, but 20 years ago, they know where they were when a certain play went down and it was defining and it was a moment.
Yeah. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you start your podcast and what's it called?
It's called The Press Room. I started it my senior year of high school. I'm still struggling with the consistency part of it. It's really hard.
Well, you're really busy, so I get it.
It's really hard for me to post weekly and stay on all the social medias and interact with everybody. But I really do feel like if you do want to start a podcast, if you start a podcast and you are consistent at it for a year and you post, let's say once a week, and you do all the social medias and you do everything consistently for a year, like you'll get traction and you'll get followers and you'll gain an audience and you'll make new relationships with people.
It's really great. I love how it starts a public conversation, no matter what topic. There may be people with different interests. And I know particularly with the Possibilities podcast platform that we have here, we say the building bridges. It really does build bridges and bring people together for conversations. And so you have a partner with your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's really fun to learn like your co-host and like kind of like how you guys speak with each other about things. But I mean, I've had multiple people on my show. And it is hard to find like one person that you like really think like flows with you the best. But I think the guy I have now is pretty solid.
Absolutely. So tell me about your favorite teams.
So I'm originally from Tennessee, but I've grown up here. But I've grown up as a Tennessee fan, so I'm a diehard Tennessee Vols fan, college. And I'm a diehard OKC Thunder fan.
Yes.
And those are really the two teams that I'm following all the time. And I'm like,
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when the Thunder was not, here, and what that team has done for our city and our community has been so really special to see and to experience and to go to a game. And yeah, so I really appreciate your commentary on your show about Thunder, what they're doing. And, we were just lamenting about their loss the other night, but we love them nevertheless.
Yeah. It's Thunder. I mean, I go to every game. Like, I'm such a big fan. And I look forward to every game. Like, I know after a game, like when's the next Thunder game? Like I know right now, the next Thunder game is Monday. So on Monday night, like I'll be at the Thunder game.
Right, right.
So
I
it's
love
just something that
it.
gives me
I
something
love
to look
it.
forward to. And yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit before too about, your generation and many people now, it's a different environment from an employment standpoint, especially after COVID too. But you have such an entrepreneurial spirit. And I want to visit with you about that and what that means to you. We were talking about, there were, decades ago and still today in some respects, there are people who will, work with an entity for many, many years. And seems like the younger generations, especially, that you really are taking on that spirit as an entrepreneur more than we've seen, historically.
Yeah.
What does that mean for you?
Yeah, it's I'm grateful to live in the time that I do, and there's so many ways that you can make a career and so many things that you can do. I think what really started for me was in high school, early high school, maybe even middle school too. I know I had to save it for a car, and I was like, how am I gonna get money? And I started mowing lawns, and I saved up enough to pay for half of my truck.
Right.
And ever since then, I'm like, I have no reason to go. Like I can mow this lawn in an hour and make $40. Like why do I need to go work here and make $10 an hour? And also, my worst fear is just like being stuck in a 9 to 5, working when somebody else wants me to, and being told when I have to work.
Right.
And that's just something that I really don't want for myself and don't want for my life. And my ultimate goal and drive is the freedom to do what I want when I want. Right. So that's really what drives me too. I mean, I haven't had a job, like working for somebody in 3 years, maybe 2 years almost. I worked just like regular. I worked one job in high school, 2 jobs in like TJ Maxx and Taco Bell for a very short time. And I worked at a car wash for maybe 6 months, and it's just not my thing. I just want to be able to control my life, and not have to be told when I have to be here and when I can leave. So, yeah.
Well, it's like a self-sovereignty of make your own, your rules and be ruled by those rules. And yeah, so what do you see next coming up? How are you looking towards 2025?
This is a good question. It's a big question. I'm always like, what's next, right?
Right. I'm contemplating that. I think many of us are.
Yeah. Right now, I'm trying to get into a little bit of real estate stuff. Obviously, I want to keep growing my podcast. I need to be doing that more consistently. I buy and sell trading cards, like sports cards.
That's so great. Yeah.
I mean, I do random jobs. I mean, I do so many different things, and I don't know. I don't know what's next. Yeah, that's yet to be figured out, but we'll see. I'm excited for 2025, and I'm hoping that this can be like, I've been thinking like for the last couple months, I'm like 2025 needs to be like my breakthrough year as like an entrepreneur. Like I'm officially like a self-made entrepreneur. Like I've made it. Like I don't have to work for anybody.
Yes, I love that. I'm really excited to see what you do. So what inspires you, and who are your mentors or your people of inspiration?
What inspires me? I think that just goes back to just wanting to create a life of freedom for myself.
Right.
Who inspires me? I think a lot of my inspiration comes from just seeing people in situations that they don't enjoy and don't want to be in.
Right.
And not wanting that. And then obviously my mother, I would assume you would have known that. My mom, I think is where I get a lot of my work ethic from.
Right. She is a hard worker.
It's the never satisfied mindset. Like there's always something more that you can do, right?
Yeah.
It's never not that it's never enough, but you can always do better, and you can always do more for yourself and create something better for yourself. I think she has that mindset, and she's always putting everything she has into whatever she's working on whenever she's working. So it's just something that I try to do.
Absolutely. We were saying, she really is mini but mighty.
Yeah.
Yes, I learned things from her as well, and she's been a great support in my life as well. If a listener wants to learn more about your podcast or anything that you're doing, would you like to share any site or any information about that?
Yeah, so I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, everywhere you get your podcast. It's called The Press Room. I'm trying to get on TikTok a lot too. TikTok's a lot of interaction on TikTok. There's a lot of growth to be done on TikTok. So I'm on there as well. Same username. Yeah, it's just if you're into sports at all, and you might enjoy it.
Yes, that's awesome. Well, Cooper, it's been wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being on Timber People, and thank you for your support.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yakoki, thank you for joining us. Timber People is brought to you by the Possibilities Podcast platform.